5 women came to cook for a man who trusted no one. Only one knew that in his world the wrong dish could get you killed, and she brought hers anyway. Before we drove in, subscribe, share, and likes. Now Kim Do-han stood at the head of a steel kitchen that smelled of bleach, not food. 5 women in white aprons lined the counter, chosen by his lieutenants from photographs, backgrounds, silence about their pasts. He didn't want a wife. He wanted proof someone could be trusted with his table before he trusted them with anything else. "You have 1 hour," he said, voice flat as the countertop. "Whoever survives my palate stays for dinner. The rest go home tonight." Survives. 2 women exchanged a glance at the word, laughing nervously. He didn't laugh. In his world, the word wasn't a joke. Across the city, Clara stood in a cramped apartment kitchen that smelled like everything his didn't. Cumin, burnt sugar, her grandmother's iron skillet seasoned black from 40 years of use. She wasn't chosen from a photograph. She was chosen because her cousin owed the Kim family a debt, and this was how debts got paid. A body in a kitchen, a name on a list. She wrapped the skillet in a towel like it was something sacred. "You don't cook for men like that to impress them," her grandmother had told her once, voice rasping through the phone. "You cook to remind them what safety tastes like." Most of them forgot. Clara didn't know that 4 of the 5 women beside her tonight had been sent to compete. She didn't know one of them hadn't come to cook at all. She only knew she was tired of being invisible in rooms built to overlook her. And tonight, for once, she planned to be impossible to ignore. The car outside honked. She picked up the skillet and walked out the door. The kitchen went silent when Clara's dish hit the pass. Not a plated masterpiece. A simple stew, dark and rich, the kind that took hours to build and seconds to inhale. Steam curled up carrying garlic, smoked paprika, something warm and unnamed underneath. Kim Do-han didn't move for a long moment. His lieutenant, Yoon, shifted uneasily behind him. Nobody made him wait. He picked up the spoon. The first taste hit him somewhere he'd sealed off years ago. His jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, the room disappeared, replaced by a memory he hadn't let himself touch. A small kitchen, a woman humming, a smell exactly like this one. Gone the night everything in his life turned cold. He set the spoon down carefully, like it might break something if he moved too fast. "Who taught you to cook like this?" His voice had lost its flatness. "My grandmother," Clara said, chin level, refusing to shrink under the stares of the other 4 women. She said food should tell the truth, even when people won't. Something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe fear. He didn't answer. He simply nodded once, and Yoon's clipboard pen paused over her name. The other 4 women watched the exchange with different expressions. Envy, calculation, and from one of them, standing very still at the end of the counter, something colder. She hadn't touched her own dish in 20 minutes. She was watching Kim's hands, not his face. Clara didn't notice. She was too busy realizing, with a slow chill, that the most dangerous part of tonight wasn't whether she'd impressed him. It was that she suddenly, badly, wanted to. "Send the rest home, she stays for dinner." Kim's words landed like a verdict, and the kitchen fractured into motion. Aprons untied, murmured congratulations that didn't reach anyone's eyes. Yoon caught his arm the moment they were alone. "Sir, you don't know her. You don't know any of them beyond a folder. I know what I tasted. That's not how this works, and you know it." Yoon's voice dropped. "After everything with your mother, you promised me you'd never let anyone that close to your table again." Kim's expression shut like a door. "This is different. It's always different until it isn't." Across the room, Clara sat rigid at the edge of a long steel table, aware she was being discussed like an asset, not a guest. She wanted to leave. Her hands, still smelling of paprika and garlic, curled into fists in her lap. "This isn't a home," she reminded herself. "This is a debt getting paid." Her cousin's voice echoed in her memory. Desperate, apologetic. 3 weeks ago on the phone. "Just cook for him once, Clara. Please. It's the only way they'll forgive what I owe them." She hadn't expected to feel anything real in that kitchen. She hadn't expected him to look at her like she was the first honest thing he'd tasted in years. Kim returned, sitting across from her without a word, studying her the way a man studies something he doesn't trust himself to want. "Why did you really come tonight?" he asked quietly. Clara met his eyes. "Would you believe the truth?" He didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. The gunshot came before the scream. Glass exploded across the dining room as Clara hit the floor on instinct, Kim's body already covering hers before conscious thought caught up. Chaos erupted, Yoon shouting orders, men in dark suits swarming the exits, a table overturned as cover. "Stay down," Kim growled, his voice a blade now, nothing soft left in it. Through the smoke, Clara saw her, the fifth woman, the one who hadn't touched her dish, weapon raised, face utterly calm. Not a guest. Never a guest. "She was never here to cook," Clara whispered, horror crawling up her spine. "No," Kim said grimly, pulling her toward the service exit as gunfire cracked behind them. "She was here for me." They ran through corridors that smelled of concrete and adrenaline, Clara's heart hammering louder than the shouting behind them. Kim shoved her into a black car, sliding in beside her, still scanning the mirrors like the threat hadn't ended. "Who was she?" Clara demanded, hands shaking now that the danger had a half-second to catch up with her. "A message," Kim said quietly. "From people who want me gone before I choose an heir, a wife, anything that makes me harder to kill quietly." Clara stared at him, the pieces reassembling into something terrifying. "And I just made your kitchen a target." He didn't deny it. "You made it something worth protecting. That's different." His eyes met hers, unreadable and raw. "I need to know you're not part of this. And I need you somewhere safe until I do." The car sped into the dark, carrying them both toward answers neither wanted. Would you trust a man who just admitted your presence made you a target, or run while you still could? Tell me below. Pyrafe. The safe house was quiet, tucked behind a nondescript gate outside the city. Clara sat wrapped in a blanket that wasn't hers, watching Kim pour tea he didn't drink. "Your mother," she said carefully. "Yoon mentioned her. What happened?" His hands stilled around the cup. For a long time, she thought he wouldn't answer. "She was poisoned," he said finally. "At our own table. By someone my father trusted completely. Someone who cooked for our family for 11 years. His jaw tightened. "I was 14. I watched her die over a bowl of soup she praised as the best she'd ever tasted." Clara's breath caught. "That's why the test. The kitchen. All of it. I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to poison what's mine again." He finally looked at her. "And then you walked in with a stew that tasted like a memory I buried, and I forgot every rule I made." Clara's chest ached with something she didn't want to name yet. "My cousin owes your family money," she admitted quietly. "That's the only reason I came tonight. I didn't come for you. I came because I had no choice." Kim didn't flinch. "I know. Yoon told me before you arrived. You knew. And you still... I watched you not know I owned the room, and still refused to shrink in it," he said. "That told me more than any file could." Outside, rain began tapping the windows, soft and steady. For the first time since the gunfire, Clara let her shoulders drop. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I," Kim said. "I just don't usually say it out loud." By the third day, the safe house smelled like her grandmother's kitchen again. Clara had commandeered the small stove out of restlessness more than hunger, and Kim, against every instinct that told him to stay guarded, found himself sitting on the counter watching her cook instead of reviewing threat reports. "You chop garlic wrong," she said without looking up, sliding the knife from his hand when he tried to help and got it predictably wrong. "I run an organization that controls 3 ports and half a shipping lane," he said dryly. "I think I can manage garlic." "Clearly not." She smiled, the first real one he'd seen from her, and something in his chest loosened dangerously. They worked in comfortable silence after that, her directing, him failing spectacularly at dicing onions without tears streaming down his face, which made her laugh so hard she had to lean on the counter. "I haven't laughed like this in years," he admitted quietly, wiping his eyes with the back of his wrist. unsure if it was still the onions. Maybe you were overdue, Clara said, softer now. He studied her in the low kitchen light, flower on her sleeve, unguarded in a way he hadn't let anyone be near him since he was 14 years old. Clara, his voice had changed, low and certain. Whatever happens after this, whoever's still hunting me, I need you to know this is the first time my kitchen has ever felt like it belonged to someone, instead of just being defended. She didn't answer with words. She reached over and turned off the stove, letting the silence between them say the rest. Yoon arrived at dawn, and the peace shattered with him. We found her, Yoon said, tossing a folder onto the table. The fifth woman's real name, real employer, real target. But there's something else. His eyes flicked to Clara, hard and accusing. Her handler's phone. Last incoming call before the attack came from a number registered to Clara's cousin. The room went cold. That's impossible, Clara said, standing so fast her chair scraped the floor. My cousin wouldn't sell you out to clear a debt? Yoon's voice was flat. People do worse for less. Kim hadn't spoken. He was staring at the folder like it had physically struck him, and when he finally looked at Clara, something in his face had closed like a door slamming. Kim, Clara said, hearing her own voice crack. You know me, 3 days. I know what I felt, he said quietly, and it was worse than shouting. I don't know what's real anymore. I told you my mother died because I trusted the wrong person at my own table. His voice roughened. I did it again. You don't believe that, Clara whispered, tears burning now. You can't. I don't know what I believe. He turned away from her, hands braced against the counter, shoulders rigid. Yoon, get her somewhere secure, away from me. Kim, please. Clara. His voice broke on her name, the first crack in his control since the gunfire. Just go. She stood frozen for a moment, watching the man who'd laughed with her over garlic disappear back into the cold stranger from the kitchen test. Then she walked out and didn't look back. 2 days passed. Clara sat in a borrowed apartment, staring at her phone, replaying every version of the truth she could tell him, if he'd even let her. Her cousin finally called, sobbing, confessing what he'd been too ashamed to say sooner. His phone had been cloned weeks earlier by the same people hunting Kim, used without his knowledge to relay the attack. He hadn't betrayed her, he'd been used, just like she almost had been. Clara's hands shook as she recorded the call, the proof finally real in her hands. But proof wasn't the only thing sitting heavy in her chest. Do I even go back? He'd shut the door himself. He'd chosen fear over her, the same way his mother's death had taught him to. She thought of her grandmother's voice. You cook to remind them what safety tastes like. Most of them forgot. Kim, meanwhile, sat alone in the very kitchen where it started. Untouched food in front of him. Yoon's warnings echoing hollow now that the silence had nothing to fill it. The cousin's phone was cloned, Yoon said quietly, appearing in the doorway. It wasn't her. It was never her. Kim closed his eyes, the weight of what he'd done crashing over him. He'd protected himself the only way he knew, by pushing away the one person who'd made his table feel safe again. Where is she? He asked, already standing. Sir, if you go to her now. I spent 14 years building walls so nothing could hurt me again, Kim said, grabbing his coat. I'm done being safe. I need to be honest instead. He walked out into the rain, choosing her. Clara opened the door to find him soaked from the rain, holding nothing but the truth and a small dented pot she recognized instantly, her grandmother's. Yoon retrieved it from the safe house, Kim said, voice unsteady in a way she'd never heard. I didn't want to show up with flowers. I wanted to show up with something that actually means something to you. Clara stared at him, throat tight. You shut the door on me. I know. He didn't defend it. I spent my whole life believing love was the thing that gets you poisoned. That trust is the mistake that gets people killed, and for 3 days the one time I let myself believe otherwise. I panicked and did exactly what I swore I'd never become. I chose fear over you. His voice cracked. I was wrong. Your cousin was used. You were never the danger, Clara. You were the first safe thing I've had in 14 years, and I almost threw it away because I didn't know how to hold something good without expecting it to be taken. Clara's eyes filled, but she didn't move yet. If I let you back in, and you get scared again, then I fight through it instead of running, Kim said. I promise you that. She finally stepped aside, letting him in from the rain. Silently, she took the pot from his hands, filled it, and set it on the stove, the same way she had that very first night. Steam rose between them, carrying garlic and something warm neither of them said out loud. This time he didn't wait for a spoon, he kissed her instead. And for the first time in 14 years, his table finally felt like home. Would you have opened that door, or made him earn it back longer? Let me know below, and don't forget to subscribe for the next story.